Yo.
And we're live. Hey, Ron.
All right. Y'all ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's count down. This is fun.
Oh, was I not supposed to start recording there?
Yeah. So we're gonna do it again, and then
Okay.
and then at the end of the countdown, hit record, and then I'm gonna just go into it.
Oh,
Okay.
whoa,
Yeah, let's do it.
this is
Let's do it.
new.
What a
Okay.
fake out. What a fake out.
Are you ready?
Whoa, it's
I'm ready,
crazy.
man.
Okay, I'm ready.
We need with that
Okay.
countdown.
And welcome to episode 390 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Seth?
Andrew Swafford. Nope. We didn't plan it ahead of time.
Are we going to listen to the song again?
No.
Yeah.
And Jess. The end. All right. Andrew, Seth, and Jess.
That's the crew.
It's another Seth podcast experience for y'all. What a treat.
On today's episode, we'll be talking about movies that we saw this week in part one. And in part two, we'll be continuing our romance movies series with 1989's When Harry Met Sally. Head over to the website. Do we have some writing coming? Anything new coming up?
We don't. I guess now is as good a time as ever to make a little bit of a writing announcement, which is that
sure.
the writing on Cinematary is going to kind of slow down a little bit. It's not ending. We're still going to try to have writing occasionally. But what we've been doing for the past like 2 or 3 years, I forget how many years we've been doing it, is trying to publish either every Monday or every other Monday. And it's just gotten a little unsustainable recently with the amount of people that we have contributing to the writing into the site. So we're going to let Cinematary, the site, still be there as a platform for people who contribute to the podcast who want to share their thoughts in writing. But we are going to, go at a bit of a slower, more relaxed pace. And we're going to try to use, we're going to reroute Patreon funds for other stuff that we're still kind of trying to figure out at this point. Maybe like getting people to festivals and stuff like that. But we'll see. It's a money laundering scheme now.
You're not supposed to tell them.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I want some.
Or what actually might happen is like when writing does happen, those writers get a lot more than they would have made before.
Or better recording equipment.
Yeah.
Prostitutes.
Just full transparency.
Anyway, they probably don't really care. But I don't know. Or they do. About where the money. Anyway, just know.
You should still support us on Patreon.
You know what? Or take this opportunity to look at some of our retro reviews. We've got a lot of great ones.
We have a big backlog. I mean, we've published very regularly since like 2016. And so I'm pretty proud of the archive that we have there.
Let's take this opportunity to just relish in some of our stuff that you haven't gotten around to reading yet.
Mm-hmm. Now's the time.
Now's the time. Seize the day.
Carpe diem.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of seizing the day, I'll kick us off in part one with Jackass Forever.
There you go.
All right.
Number 4 in the Jackass series. I would point people to whatever the hell episode it was when we covered the first 2 Jackass movies, and then we talked about Jackass 3D with Blake Williams, which was a cool episode.
Very cool episode. Go listen to that if you haven't
Yeah.
listened to it.
Well, yeah, I'll try to remember to link to it. I probably will forget, but I mean, you have a search function. Like,
Yeah.
take it upon yourselves. Be proactive. But yeah, so this is the fourth one. The first one, I think they said in 10 years. First one in 10 years. It brings back most of the original cast, sans Bam. It adds a bunch of new people.
What happened to Bam?
That's a whole controversy thing.
Is he in jail?
Are they not?
Yeah, they're not cool with Bam anymore. So that's a whole thing.
Oh,
Again,
bummer.
you have Google, just do your thing. Yeah, I'm not helping you along in any of these things in this
That's right.
podcast.
No, man, I thought that they got back together. So I'm surprised. But I guess I
No.
should Google that and figure it out for myself.
No, they're Bam's no
He's
Bam's
dead to
no
them.
he's dead to them. But yeah,
Sheesh.
this one they're all kind of naturally they're all kind of older. It's a lot, it's a lot. There's
Happened
something different.
naturally.
Yeah, naturally, but like there's something different about watching Johnny Knoxville like once again get into a ring with and get hit by a bull. And it's cool. They do a couple times where they'll flash. They do a lot of stunts that they've done previously, but kind of like either elevate on them or use it as kind of like here's what it looked like in like 2000 or 2001 when we did it. Here's what it looks like in 2022.
That's cute.
That's one of them where you just
Ooh.
still just getting laid out.
It's like Matrix 4. It sounds like Matrix 4.
Ain't like Matrix Forever.
Ooh.
Exactly. It's Matrix Forever.
Oh, my brain.
Sheesh.
But there's a couple. I think a lot of the new people are kind of welcome additions. Like you have the people that you're used to seeing in a Jackass movie. You have Johnny Knoxville, you have Steve-O, you have Chris Pontius, you have Dave England, Aaron McGinney, Preston Lacey, Wee Man, people like that, like the people who you've seen over the course of these movies. But then you also have like these newer folks like Zach Holmes, Sean McInnery, Rachel Wolfson, Eric Andre, like people just popping up which is really cool because it's a lot of them grew up watching these. And so it's kind of like it's like a new group of jackasses joining the crew. And so it's kind of fun to like watch them reacting to things compared to a lot of the familiar faces reacting to things. Honestly, like thinking back on all of the different bits they do, probably my favorite one of the entire one is a bit they call Silence of the Lambs.
Oh no.
And the setup
Been hearing
is
about this.
yeah, the setup is they put them in this room and they have like this giant snake and they're like, yeah, we're gonna like close the door and leave you in this room with the lights on, and the snake's gonna be like slithering around the room and you have to avoid it. So they're like, okay. So then everybody leaves the room, and then Johnny Knoxville's like, no, actually, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let the snake loose, but we're not going to tell them that, but we're going to shut the lights off and lock the doors.
Oh no.
And it's just like, it's such a wonderful setup because they got no idea. And they think this snake is like loose in this room.
Yeah.
And they're just losing their minds. And then then the room is set up where you have this back room, there's a door, and that door is unlocked. But if they go in that room, you run into like all these pots and pans that are like hung up on the ceiling. There's like sticky paper on the ground,
Oh,
mouse
no.
traps and stuff.
Ooh.
And there's 3 different rooms of two guys doing this. And it's
And
funny.
all the while they think a snake is chasing after them?
Yeah, and so Johnny Knoxville is like in the rooms like brushing stuff up against them, and they're flipping out.
Oh, God.
And then every time it's so fucking funny because they figure out that the door in the back is open, and like there's like one where they're like, I forgot who, I think it was Dave England is just yelling, the door's open, come on man, come on, we got to get through, like he's like trying to like get through like some battle and war. He's just like, God, we got to get out of here. And he's like, no, I'm not going with you. And then he just like rushes through the door and just starts hitting all the pans, and it's just,
Oh my God.
it's so funny. And it's just such a the whole setup is great. The other one that kills me is honestly the two guys I love to just watch is one is Chris Pontius, who just enjoys wearing. He loves just wearing bikinis and just any type of outfit where his dick will hang out. Just good for him. He's living his best life.
Oh my God.
How many dicks are in this movie compared to previous?
So many
Jackass
dicks.
movies?
It literally opens with Chris Pontius's dick that's dressed up to look like Godzilla.
They don't blur them, right?
Which also, yeah, no, they don't blur it. No, which
Oh,
also
so
sets up this like really
exciting.
which is something that I think Jackass has got good at with like the second and third one, especially where it gets a lot more cinematic and like they really have like these homages and touches to like other movie stunts. And so like the whole opening of this movie is like a kind of an homage to monster movies and Godzilla movies and things like that. Seth, you would lose your mind over it. But also culminates in like all these soldiers getting jizzed on. So it's wonderful.
Wow, I would.
But the one who I just kind of love throughout the whole series is Aaron McGahey, who they just regularly abuse. And like in this one, he's doing what is a stunt that they've done out of all the Jackasses, where they just they wear like a sports cup and just see how much they can hit themselves in the balls with different things. And so this one, he starts by having a UFC heavyweight fighter punch him in the balls. So that hurts. Then he has a softball pitcher throw a 100-mile-per-hour pitch and hit him in the balls. Then the whole thing culminates with him having a hockey player hit a puck into his balls. I don't know why. And I think he all did it like within a few days. I don't know why he did it all in succession. Like it makes no sense to me, but it seems incredibly painful. Exactly. The other thing he does is they lock him in this room and it's another kind of bait and switch joke where Johnny Knoxville's in there and they're pretending like they're giving him a lie detector test. And whenever he lies, they like kind of jolt him with like a taser. But they do that for a while and then they just clear out the room and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And they start pouring honey and salmon on him. And then they just let this grizzly bear in and it's great. The bear is like licking him, is like eating the salmon off of him. At one point, the trainer's like, "Yeah, we got to get him out now." And
Bear was like getting too food horny or something.
Yeah. And the last stunt I'll mention, just because I don't know who thought of this and how like what it would do in terms of scarring, but Steve-O does a stunt where he coats his dick with like honey and then they like put this thing on with a queen bee from a hive on his dick. So then all the bees are like swarming to his dick and all over his body. And like, who convinced him to do that? I mean,
does he ever talk about like how the dick was after all that?
I mean, he does more.
Did the dick make a
he does more dick stunts, so I mean, he's fine afterward. The only time he gets hurt is they do this one stunt where they're all in like marching band attire with instruments, and they jump on a treadmill and hit this wall, and he gets a concussion.
It's crazy to think like with all of these men like still able to reproduce after all of the.
I don't know, and that's what was like really moving about this whole movie is it's just like they're just still doing it. It's great. And like, but there's also like there's just like this wonderful camaraderie with it. Like they're all just buddies. They all like each other. They're all just
guys being
dudes. Have to.
They're just guys being dudes.
Oh,
like it's
boy.
And this was the first Jackass movie that I saw like on a big screen, and it makes a difference just like having like the big screen, just watching these fucking crazy stunts. I don't know. It's a goddamn good time. Like if you're like, if you want to go to the movie theater and laugh for like an hour and a half at these guys just do just stupid ass things, I recommend Jackass Forever.
I saw Jackass 3D at Big Ears a couple of years ago. I'm not somebody like maybe y'all were who grew up on the movies, so I really didn't know what I was going to make of it. But I gotta say, first of all, the 3D experience was just fun. Like it was just fun to see all of these hilarious and horrible things happen. to these guys, but then in 3D. But there was like this big sense of camaraderie to it, and even I like picked up on that. But I'm not somebody who grew
also
up with the movies. Like it was sweet. I really liked it. I thought it was
they
sweet.
also are very like intuitive into like one like the history of stunts in movies. You know, like they're, I don't know, like it's much more impressive to like watch the Jackass movie than like most modern action blockbuster movies, because like these guys are performing everything. There's no CGI, there's no computer, like it feels very akin back to, you know, if you're watching like a Chaplin or a Buster Keaton, specifically Buster Keaton, or like, you know, a lot of his Hong Kong movies from Jackie Chan, where like you just have like this like physicality and this practicality to everything they're doing. Like, to me, that's always what I get the rush out of, is just like watching these guys perform these stunts themselves, that, you know, like there's something very thrilling about still kind of having that old movie magic to it.
As a noted Jackass disliker, I will say that the one time I got to see one on a big screen, which was Jackass 3D, I did enjoy it much more because I saw it on the big screen. Yeah. But still, like, just hearing you describe these stunts, Zach, like maybe 1 in 5 of them are one that I actually want to watch happen to somebody. And the other, I'm just like, no, get it away.
Andrew, okay, I guess in Andrew's defense, he
just
doesn't. He really can't handle like stuff happening to people on screen. Like, for example,
I'm pretty squeamish.
Yeah, with like needles, he hates it. He doesn't want to see any scene with needles. We've been watching Outlander together, and I keep telling him,
he doesn't like Scottish people.
No, well, it's kind of like, you know, it's a romantic history drama kind of thing, but it's also kind of a medical show because the main character is a surgeon. So you see a lot of cutting and pasting and stuff. And I'm all like, I don't care at all. It's a TV show, A, and B, like this kind of stuff just doesn't make me squeamish. But Andrew, he'll always be like looking away. He has to check his phone anytime there's a surgery scene because he just can't. So I guess that makes sense why that would make you mostly uncomfortable.
Yeah. I talk a lot about my history with the franchise in our Jackass 3D episode. So if people are morbidly curious about that, they can go listen.
Let's see what makes Andrew tick.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, sorry for the bumping sound.
Our cat is being obnoxious.
No, Cooper wants to go in the basement.
Jackasses.
Do not call my son a jackass. Cooper really wants to go in the basement more than anything else. But I don't want him to go in the basement because it's really gross down there. Like, it's not waterproofed and it's like dirty and stuff. We don't hang out.
But that's why he loves it.
But he loves the filth. And
Cooper.
Now he's like screaming anyway.
We'll look for Cooper in Jackass 5 because love and filth that's where it's at. Yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
Movie's the best. So Jackass Forever. Go check it out in theaters. Go have a good time.
Currently best movie of 2022.
Don't spray it.
Oh yeah, no question. Like, what else would it be? Well, trying to think of what else.
Yeah, I am trying to think. What has come out
2022?
This year?
Not much.
I'm trying to think of 2022 movies.
Has anything come out?
The House that we talked about. No, it's Jackass Forever.
Well, I mean, there's Matrix 4. Or was that last year? That
came out last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's true.
I guess.
Yeah, go check it out. Go check it out in the theater. It's a good time to see on the big screen. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move it along. Seth, I'm tossing it to you.
Okay, I caught it, and it looks like it's gonna start as a mild plug for my new podcast, which is coming out.
Hey.
Gotcha. Leave this podcast immediately.
We heard you like podcasts.
It's called Unwatchables. It's currently not out, but maybe sometime in the future it will be out when someone listens to this in the future. But
are you guys like recording a bit of a backlog and then releasing a bunch at a time, or what?
Yep, just sitting on it. And we'll eventually release them again. But
nothing beats the plug that of something you can't see. So
Yeah, I know.
Tantalizing.
And you have yet to give it a name either.
No, it's a name.
Where are we gonna look
Unwatchables.
It's
Good name.
called Unwatchables, and it's about movies that are sometimes deemed unwatchable for one reason or another, whether they're like really gross or controversial, or they're like big old flops, or they're like super long and obnoxious. And this one we took a break because we had just done like Sallow, so we needed a real break. So we did flops, and we did Clifford and North, which both got really hyperbolic ratings from Roger Ebert at the time.
Hyperbolic in a good way or in a bad way?
Like in a real bad way. Like he like
nice.
uses like I think it's Clifford. He says like I hate this movie or something like that. It's hate a bunch, and famously, and Clifford. I'm a Clifford truther. I have always been a fan of Clifford. It's not the big red dog. It's Martin Short and Charles Grodin. Martin Short plays a 10-year-old boy, and everybody.
But he's a grown-up man when
he's a grown-up man. He's like 40 or something, and he's just
playing as a
dressed
small
as
boy.
like a little boy with like little boy shorts, and like everybody in the movie acts like he's just a little boy, but he's like an evil little boy who wants to go to Dinosaur World more than anything, which is designed by Charles Grodin, his uncle, who he gets dumped, who like his parents hate him because he's just like this infant, terrible, like menace, like Dennis the Menace or something, but even more like strange and slightly demonic and obsessed with dinosaurs. And they dump him on Charles Grodin, and Charles Grodin basically uses him to make it look like he's really good with kids in front of his fiance who really wants kids, but he really hates kids. And they both basically like, Clifford's just trying to use him also to get to Dinosaur World, and they both just wind up exposing each other for like the horrible monsters they both are in the end. And it's like,
do you really think that the uncle you're supposed to read him as like an awful guy?
He's not a horrible monster. No, but
I felt like he genuinely wanted to like Clifford, but Clifford is just like a literal child psychopath.
Yeah, but he's using him to score points with his girlfriend. It's not
I
like
mean,
he's not like a monster.
Worse things have happened.
Yeah, whatever.
But he's definitely like he hates about Clifford the most in the end is that it exposes sort of that he's a little bit of a faker. He's a sham a bit. And that's really what like drives him over the edge and eventually makes him threaten Clifford by taking him to Dinosaur World, but like putting the rides into overdrive in order to possibly kill him. And Zach, you said you're a big fan of this movie.
I think I just like movies where Charles Grodin is like somebody's rating on Charles Grodin. Like I just like that's a great genre of movies. Like if Charles Grodin is annoyed and trying to like work through being annoyed in a movie, that's my favorite movie. Like the Heartbreak Kid is the same thing. Like he's the same way where like he thinks he's such a good person, but he slowly becomes a worse and worse person, and he's just so like grating. It's just I love it so. Like him being annoyed is so nice,
especially when it's him like threatening the life basically of this 40-year-old man who is pretending to be a 10-year-old and saying like, if you even look at me funny. I know he doesn't look like a 10-year-old at all. And so, which is why, like, probably, like, the average, like, audience member was probably absolutely puzzled the entire time because it also just goes to these, like, is it funny? Is it, like, actually going to turn into, like, a horror movie? You never know. But,
And Richard Kind is his dad.
Yes. Oh, he's so good. He's like, oh, we're going to have an ulcer. We're going to have an ulcer. But he's, yeah, my family
everybody in this movie I love.
Yeah, my family introduced this movie to me as like they are like the 3% of the world, like in the early 90s that actually saw this and was like, that's a good movie. That's funny. Huh. Like, just like, what are you talking about? It's just a regular comedy. And like they showed it and I watched it. Like I've watched it ever since I was a little kid. And like only more recently have I like rewatched it and realized how batshit it is.
That's so crazy.
because I took it for granted. So yeah, I'm definitely a Clifford truther. I love it. But the other movie we did on the podcast was North that time, which is also one that Roger Ebert hated. I still think it was like a little too much hate, but man, that movie sucks. Sucks real bad. It's Elijah Wood, and he is a little kid playing a little kid, and
It's not as funny.
no, it's timely for this because it's a Rob Reiner movie, and it's this like notoriously most hated movie in his entire filmography. Basically, it's like I think part of the reason it was so hated is because it just like kind of feels like a Disney Channel movie or something. It's just kind of stupid and for kids, but it was the end of his crazy streak, which was like, I don't know the order, but like Spinal Tap, Misery, Princess Bride, Harry Met Sally, and then North. And it was
North came after When Harry Met Sally?
I think. I'm not sure. I'm pretty
it's
sure
in
it did.
94.
Yes, 90s. And after that, like, I can't really name any Rob Reiner movies. North was like...
There's Stand By Me, but I guess that's before.
Oh.
That was before.
That was also before? I think it was
Yeah,
before.
okay, so here's the streak. This is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men, and then North.
And that's that. Poor Robbie.
Can we circle back to Clifford for a minute?
Absolutely.
The theme of part one. Oh man.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say the theme of part one of this podcast is movies that Andrew doesn't like, but I guess the theme of the part one of this podcast is loud noises happening in the background of us recording.
Yeah, I'm currently running through traffic while I do this podcast.
Yeah.
So forgive me.
On the run for your crimes against cinema.
If you don't watch the video of this podcast, you will never know whether or not that is true.
I've been sitting very politely listening to Seth and Zach talk about how much they love Clifford. I don't know. I'm not going to convince anybody that I don't think this movie is good. Maybe I was just feeling too empathetic on the day that I watched it, but I was just like so. I felt like I was Charles Grodin being made personally angry at Clifford. I sympathize with Charles Grodin too much. At the end of the movie, when like the Clifford is in this like roller coaster cart, dangling over like a precarious drop, and like the movie is letting you rest in this moment of tension of like, is Clifford going to literally die? I want him to die. And like, I feel like there's something deeply wrong with a movie that does want me to root for the death of a 10-year-old child.
Andrew, that was Andrew's biggest takeaway. He was like, this movie made me want a kid to die, and I don't want to feel that way.
Yeah. I feel like it awakened something dark inside of me that I don't want to. I didn't need to happen.
I mean, but it's not a 10-year-old. It's 45-year-old Martin Short.
Right.
Yes, but it awakened
like
something
devil.
Dark in Charles Grodin. It awakened something very dark.
I almost forgot
Grodin.
the absolutely goober like frame story that they put the movie in, where he's this like old man, but they put this ridiculous like old man makeup on him, and he's telling his like grandchild or something about the man.
The Princess Bride frame story, basically?
No.
No, it's in the future. It's in this future monastery or something for bad kids.
Yes, it's so goofy. Because they could have just told the story without it, but they put that in anyway just to make the movie extra goofy. I think it's fun, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I could completely understand somebody thinking it's abhorrent, and I won't be able to convince them. But you're either on the wavelength or you're not. I get it. I understand, but I like it.
That's that.
Go watch Clifford.
Do it. A little DVD.
I want people to watch it.
It is not.
I want people to watch it if they like it, and if they don't like it, either way, I think you should take just
deal with
it in your face.
Deal with it.
Get in there.
Yeah, I don't care if you like it or don't like it. I just want it to be in your face.
Do it as a favor for Zach.
Yeah. And then like while you're watching it and you're hating it, you can like be like, "Fucking Zach said the why I don't care." Like, that's
you know what?
Come after.
Why did you get peer pressured by me like an idiot? You know,
y'all, the patrons, they pay us to for things, and then sometimes we let them pick a movie that we all have to watch. So you know
so
what,
you
you
have to
listeners,
watch
go
Clifford.
watch Clifford for Zach.
That's it.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
it for the man.
We have to watch we have to watch fucking Romeo and Juliet.
Whoa, you deserve Clifford.
Do yourself a favor and figure out if you're a Clifford truther or a Clifford denier.
Yeah, and, like most of you will
a believer
hate
in Big Clifford.
it. Exactly.
No, so this is a Clifford with Martin Short, not Big Clifford, the big red dog. Different thing.
Yeah,
It'd be funnier if Clifford was in that too.
Oh,
All right,
crossover.
Jesse, you're gonna close us out.
Close us out. All right. So check this out. I watched the one I love on Saturday. I guess that was one that kind of sat on our next Netflix queue for forever. Never got around to it until just recently. I watched it over at a friend's place. I don't know. I couldn't decide, I guess, when I was watching it. By the way, it's not on Netflix anymore, but it is on Amazon not for free, I don't think. And it's directed by Charlie McDowell, and it stars Mark Duplass. Duplass? I don't know. And Elizabeth Moss. And Ted Danson is in it too, but only for a second. I don't think he's a big part of it. It's mostly Elizabeth Moss and Mark Duplass. They're a couple who is really, really struggling on their marriage. I'm not sure if they want to make it work or not. I think that Ted Danson is their therapist, and he recommends they go off to this couples retreat thing, or it's like a weekend getaway, and they just basically stay in this house, and there's also a guest house outside of the house. And they quickly something strange happens where Elizabeth Moss runs into her husband, and he's suddenly like so sweet and saying exactly what she wants him to say, and like weirdly a little bit sexier too. And then she walks back over to the house. She was in the guest house, and then she walks back into the house and sees her husband looking like he used to and acting like he used to and being very confused about what she's talking about. So they quickly realize that there are doppelgangers of them that are staying. It's kind of like a magical thing because it seems like the doppelgangers disappear when the other one walks into the room. But like I said, there's this whole thing where these doppelgangers just seem to know exactly what they need to say just exactly what you're looking for, and just like little sexier versions of themselves. So that stirs up some interesting trouble and kind of, a fun and terrifying thought experiment as you kind of are trying to understand how these characters exist. Ooh, yeah, it gives you like these little nuggets to try to, but it doesn't really quite answer the questions. It gives you these weird little nuggets of like, how do these people exist? And like, what are they? Are they real people? Is this some kind of magical thing? Is this something else? And the little nuggets it gives you, it doesn't explain everything, but it's kind of terrifying. So the movie was just, I don't know, a little bit kind of trippy as you're figuring this out, but then also trippy because I feel like they intentionally don't fully explain things. And I think that leaves it kind of horrifying in a way. And then ultimately, I think kind of sad too. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I think I'd probably like to revisit it again sometime.
Is Mark Duplass? That's the Uncut Gems director. One of the
no, he was in.
You're thinking of the Safdies.
Oh, I don't know why I'm thinking of that.
He is also in. He's in Creep. And then
he's a mumblecore guy.
Yeah. Safety Not Guaranteed is what I think I've seen him in.
Okay.
Those are the only two, but he's been in a handful of things, mostly like indie stuff.
Yeah, we did Hannah Takes the Stairs on the podcast a long time ago.
He was also in Bombshell, but I don't know how big of a character he was in Bombshell. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Their acting is really neat too because it's the same people acting as the same people, but like very slightly different versions of those people. So I don't know. So it says something kind of, I think, also sad just about long-term relationships and what that can be, and what it can be, I think, too, without, I think, good communication or without intentionality. So it's sad, but also horrifying. I liked it. I recommend checking it out. That's my plug. The one I love. It's on Amazon.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be talking about When Harry Met Sally after this. Stick around.
BRB.
That on your end? Mm-hmm.
Okay, hey. What are you doing this week?
What
are you up to this week?
What have I done this week?
Yeah, what are you up to?
Nothing. I was working.
Any more mansion parties?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Not this week.
Not this week. Maybe next week.
So am I fired for the car going off and the dog?
Yeah.
That's going to happen at least like once every podcast. I think like once every podcast that'll happen. This dog is horrible over here.
Luckily, you have a new mic, so we got.
Yeah, you can hear it really well now.
Yeah, we got it real with some nice clarity. Anybody have any like hot Oscar takes other than who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, my tweet was that I had only seen 5 of the movies that were nominated. The ones I had seen were all good movies, but a lot of stuff that I intentionally avoided because I thought it looked dumb.
I'm just asking this for the audience. Who takes into it, like, genuinely, like, takes, like, do you really listen to what the Oscars are doing? Like do you really feel like that has any like bearing on the history of movies? Like, it doesn't.
I mean, it's
wrong
cool when
every
good stuff
time.
wins. It was cool when Moonlight won. It was cool when Parasite won.
It's just
Yeah, when
annoying
stuff like that happens.
we've acknowledged years after years just how weirdly biased it is, and how the people who do the voting just it seems like they're skewed and they don't have representation, and they've like said that they don't even watch all the movies that are nominated and evaluating them for their specific reasons. So like, why the fuck are they qualified to decide on what the best whatevers are if they're not even doing the work to actually determine that?
Yep.
It's like you're just doing a job that you're not really credentialed for, because you're literally.
Well, I mean, theoretically, they are credentialed because the people who vote in each category are people who work in that part of the industry. Like the people who vote for best director are directors.
But are they like actually reviewing the material before they make a decision?
That is the thing. Like, I don't think there's any sort of.
I feel like if that's
there's no accountability for like the prep work they have to do before they vote. It's just like a ballot that gets mailed to their house.
Yeah, it just seems like just a bunch of dudes getting together and deciding some bullshit.
It's the sports of movies.
That we're acting like their opinions are important. You need to stop telling them that their opinions are important. Who told them that?
I saw a good tweet. Like, remember that these are the people who gave Green Book Best Picture.
Yeah.
Which means that Best Picture this year is probably going to be Don't Look Up.
Yeah. I mean, I think what perpetuates it still is just like average movie-going public that likes to have like Oscar parties just for the sake of having an Oscar party and Oscar bingo. And I think that's really what it's for. That's really what perpetuates it, I guess.
But like, I feel like things win that these people aren't even like.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that's nominated are things that most people haven't heard of.
Right. So
that is what's funny about it. I think it's just like they like to watch the like cutaways when it's like, that's George Clooney.
The celebs, the red carpet.
There. He's clapping for a song. I better watch that movie now.
Sometimes I feel the same way about the Oscars that I feel about sports, but less about sports. Which is like sometimes I want to know the outcome, but I don't want to have to wait through all the bullshit to find out. Like I want to know what won just because I want to know.
It's so long. 2 years ago, I did like an Oscar betting thing at my school. Like I ran it, and it was cool because there were a lot of movies that I was excited about that year, and I ended up winning the bet too. But that was also the year the Parasite won, and this year I don't care enough. Like all 5 of the movies that I've seen that are nominated, I like a good bit. I'm not like over the moon enthusiastic about any of them. Yeah. So it's just like, I need to see Power of the Dog. Like the nominations reminded me that I need to see Power of the Dog.
Yeah, I want to see that.
The listeners only are really missing out on this cutting edge discussion.
They sure are.
Bummer for them.
And then we start yawning.
Sorry, I'm
really missing out. Raucous.
All right.
Here we go.
Should we count in for part 2 or no?
Let's do it.
You want to count in?
I'm just still recording. I fucked up.
All right, let's do it. And we're back with part 2 of episode 390 of Cinematary. In this part, we're going to be continuing our romance movie series with 1989's When Harry Met Sally, which was directed by Rob Reiner from a script by Nora Ephron. The movie stars Meg Ryan, Billy Crystal, Bruno Kirby, and Carrie Fisher. In 1977, college graduates Harry Burns and Sally Albright share a contentious car ride from Chicago to New York, during which they argue about whether men and women can ever truly be strictly platonic friends. 10 years later, Harry and Sally meet again at a bookstore and in the company of their respective best friends, Jess and Marie, attempt to stay friends without sex becoming an issue between them. In 1984, director Rob Reiner and producer Andy Scheinman and writer Nora Ephron met over lunch at the Russian Tea Room in New York City to develop a project. Reiner initially pitched an idea for a film that Ephron rejected. The second meeting they had transformed into a long discussion about Reiner and Scheinman's lives as single men. Reiner remembers, quote, "I was in the middle of my single life. I'd been divorced for a while. I'd been out a number of times. All these disastrous, confusing relationships, one after another." The next time they all met, Reiner said that he had always wanted to do a film about two people who became friends and do not have sex because they know it will ruin their relationship but have sex anyway. Ephron liked the idea and the movie moved on. For materials, Ephron interviewed Reiner and Scheinman about their lives, creating the basis for Harry. Reiner was constantly depressed and pessimistic, yet funny. Ephron also got bits of dialogue from these interviews. Sally was based on Ephron and some of her friends. She worked on several drafts over the years, while Reiner made Stand By Me and The Princess Bride. Initially, they called the movie Scenes from a Friendship, a riff on Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage from 1973, one of Reiner's inspirations for the movie. Other titles considered were Boy Meets Girl, It Had to Be You, and Harry, This Is Sally, before When Harry Met Sally was ultimately chosen. It was Reiner's decision to add the ellipses, much to Ephron's chagrin.
Ooh, man, that's a hard one.
Billy Crystal, quote, experienced vicariously Reiner's return to single life after divorcing comedian filmmaker Penny Marshall, and in the process was unconsciously doing research for the role of Harry. The real-life inspiration for Harry ended up finding love during the movie. While filming, Reiner met his future wife, Michelle Singer, who came to set to meet her friend for lunch, which Reiner wormed his way into seeing her afterwards. 7 months later, they were married and are still together.
That worm.
Tom Hanks, Richard Dreyfuss, Michael Keaton, and Albert Brooks were all offered the role of Harry Burns, but all of them turned it down. Reiner initially envisioned actor Susan Dey for the role of Sally Albright. When she declined, he later considered Elizabeth Perkins. He also considered Elizabeth McGovern. Molly Ringwald was almost cast, but Meg Ryan convinced Reiner to give her the role. These split screen scenes in the movie are an ironic homage to 1959's Pillow Talk. At the time Pillow Talk was made, the the Motion Picture Production Code, also known as the Hays Code, set moral guidelines for all the films released by major studios. Movies weren't allowed to show a couple in bed together or any sort of sexual relationship between unmarried partners. Harry and Sally were kept apart to show how close they were as, quote, just friends. Meg Ryan was nervous about doing the orgasm scene, especially in front of all the cast and crew, and Reiner says the first few tries were, quote, very tepid. So he stepped in to demonstrate what he was after. Quote, I sat down opposite Billy and I acted it out, said Reiner in an interview with the Daily Beast.
Is there a deleted scene that I can watch?
I don't know. Quote, I pounded the table again and again going, yes, yes, yes. And when we were done, I turned to Billy and said, uh-oh, I just realized I had a huge orgasm in front of my mother. And then Meg sat down and did it, and she did it way better than anyone could have ever done.
Even better than Rob Reiner.
In 1989, The Hollywood Reporter said Crystal's lustrous, deeply shaded performance is certain to win him legions of new fans. Indeed, his prowess as a comic reaches its deepest human dimension here. Ryan's performance is so well-rounded, so superbly quirky and individual that even the snidest cynic will not drop her into the facile category of just another young Hollywood dreamboat. As Ryan has proven all along, her acting talents are remarkably wide-ranging, and she shows it with Sally. In 1989, Roger Ebert said, when Harry Met Sally is a love story with a form as old as the movies and dialogue as new as this month's issue of Vanity Fair. It's about two people who could be characters in a Woody Allen movie if they weren't so sunny, and about how it takes them 12 years to fall in love. We're with them, or maybe a little ahead of them, every step of the way. Yeah, on that note, when Harry Met Sally, Jessy, let's start with you.
I just adore this movie. I think that the dialogue is just incredible. Like, it's just every minute there's just such an endearing or hilarious line. What was it that I feel like there was one line where you just I don't know, kind of almost like slapped your knee or something.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. There's too many lines like that.
It's so good.
Knee slapping.
It's just knee slapping good. It's so funny, but so just sweet. And I don't know, yeah, like you're talking about Meg Ryan and her acting. I love how the two of them show these characters just changing over time and just playing different people. And I think, people do change into completely new people in the span of 12 years. You're completely new. I think they just do such a good job capturing that. And the romance is just, it's so sweet. I like that. I don't know. I love them both. I love them both so much. I would date both of them. I don't know. I love how I guess the thing that I think is the sweetest thing about it is the way he really, I think, is just kind of helpless to her, even from the beginning. Like, he says throughout the movie that he found her annoying or he hated her, like, when they first met. But I don't see it at all. Like, I feel like he's immediately fascinated by her. Like, she is just this very type A, like, maps every minute out like in her life, so she has everything planned out. She dresses the first time they meet. She's going to like kids camp or something. She looks like a camp counselor. The way she dresses is so dorky. She's just so stiff, like a overly pressed shirt or something. And he is just this sort of lackadaisical guy who just makes out with his girlfriend while somebody waits in the car, like just rude shit. And he's fascinated by her. He's just so fascinated by how completely, I don't know, to her personality she is. Like, I don't know. And she is too, I think, but she acts like she's more disgusted by him when she first meets him. But I think he is just helplessly curious of her. And every time he runs into her, in the subsequent scenes where they meet each other over the years, he's just completely fascinated by how odd she is. And he can't help but have conversations with her, even when they are the most awkward conversations, or even when he's just being a dick just to get her to respond. It's like he wants to continue the conversation. He wants to get her to respond. It doesn't matter what he says. He's going to get her to continue talking because he's just so curious of her. And then when they finally do butt into this friendship at the end of the movie and become genuine friends, you just see how enamored he is with all of her little quirks. And it's almost like he laughs when he'll tell people about it. Like, oh, she's going to order this, but she wants it on the side. And all this. And it's like he knows her and exactly everything that makes her tick. And he finds it so endearing. And I love that sense of the movie of, when you love somebody, you love all of their weird little quirks. And meanwhile, it's like, this doesn't even occur to her that he's falling in love with her until like the last minute, and then she's like, "Oh, yeah, me too, I guess." And then that's how Harry met Sally. I love it. I think it's just adorable.
I also adore this movie. I think it is great. Definitely belongs.
You guys should
in
get
this
together.
pantheon.
You guys should get together.
Yeah, we have so much in common.
Oh my God.
You do.
I think it definitely belongs in this pantheon of like greatest romance movies of all time. To me, I think the thing that I've liked about this movie the longest is the script for it, which Jessy also mentioned. I think that it's just like incredibly tight. Pretty much every line is intended as a joke, and almost every single joke lands and like makes me laugh out loud. I really can't compare it to anything other than like The Importance of Being Earnest or something, with like just how jam-packed with like actual like amazing humor, like laughs per minute is like insane.
I just love Billy Crystal. I think he's like,
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't work as well if it wasn't like if the delivery wasn't good, and he delivers it perfectly. It feels like it's I don't know how much hand he had in like improv or writing or whatever, but it very much feels like pitched to his particular level of comedy. I also think that like the structure of this movie is really interesting. I know that on the one hand, it is kind of like going through the rom-com template, and a lot of movies that came after it are just, going through the rom-com template established by When Harry Met Sally, in terms of like, the meet cute and the will they won't they, and like the grand romantic gesture at the end and all that stuff. But I think that like that stuff, like the romantic beats, the beats of the relationship aside, like the way that the movie itself as a story is structured is really unconventional, and I don't really have anything to compare it with. Like you're just getting, I mean, almost maybe that's not true. Maybe I do have things to compare it to, but the things that I would compare it to would be like Boyhood or something. You know, like we were getting these 20-minute snapshots of like an era of somebody's life, and then a long ellipses, and then we drop back in on them later. And there's like so much that kind of goes unseen and goes unspoken in the interim. And also Rob Reiner does this thing where he like is interviewing couples like between the like chapter breaks and them talking about the way that they got together and things like that. It's just so like odd and idiosyncratic the way that the story is put together. And like one thing I think I noticed this time about it that I had not noticed before is how visually accomplished the movie is too, which is not something that I would say about most Rob Reiner movies, to be honest. I liked a lot of Rob Reiner movies, but I've never really thought of him as like a director. But there are like a lot of visual moments in here that really stuck with me. I really was like kind of picking up on a lot of the intentionality of like the camera angles and the editing and things like that. There's one scene where you see them like walk through Central Park and the camera kind of like allows them to move on without the camera, and it like slowly pans out a little bit, which is, you don't know it at the time, I guess, but it's like recreating the end of Casablanca. And then later you see them watch that scene in Casablanca. But the movie is not really like drawing, it's like not screaming and drawing attention to that. It's just kind of like a neat thing that's there. Another moment that really stuck out to me was when they were both being like the best man and the maid of honor, respectively, at their friend's wedding. When we're seeing them exchange the vows, or when we're hearing those friends exchange the vows, the camera is a shot reverse shot on Harry and Sally, and you can't see anybody else in the shot. And it's framed and edited in such a way where it feels like they're the ones getting married, even though they don't actually have a relationship yet. They already have like this life bond that's really cool. And like the movie is again not super drawing attention to stuff like that. It's kind of like trusting in the audience to pick up on certain subtleties. There's a lot of like little character things that don't really get stated out loud either. Like when the two best friends start dating, like one of their early quibbles is about like the guy's style. And then like after the next ellipses, you see him like much more well-dressed, but that's never really remarked upon. And like the thing that happens with like have sex the first time inside at the end of the movie or at the end of the movie, like Harry has this weird, awkward look on his face, but at no point does he really say out loud what he's feeling or why he's feeling it. The movie is just kind of like trusting you to figure out what like kind of knotted up, nuanced emotion that he is experiencing after all that. So I don't know. I just think it's like really masterfully done on pretty much every level. I think it's great.
Seth, what about you?
Well, I had like it was like a roller coaster ride with this movie. I felt like I was Meg Ryan and the movie was Billy Crystal at the beginning, throughout like the first half of this movie, which I don't think I'm alone as far as, because I'd never seen this before. I don't think I would be alone in this feeling as far as modern audiences are concerned, because I feel like this is like a lot of this stuff is stuff we think we know where it's going because it's been implemented in like billions of other soap operas and romantic comedies. So a lot of it is kind of like just my own kind of tastes. Like I get a little like eye rolly when I start hearing the like old fashioned like Woody Allen Sex and the City type like sweeping like I don't know, like simplifications.
Yeah.
Where they're just like these like broad simplifications of these like the thing about women is, the second I like hear things about that, I just get terrified. Because
I think the movie is kind of critical of that.
That's kind of interesting. That's what happens with it, and that's what I like about it. That it gets to that point where I'm really ready to walk out of the date with Billy Crystal, aka the movie. And then the movie actually starts interrogating a lot of that stuff that it framed as like wisdom or comedic wisdom, where they're just like, oh, the thing is, if you do this, that happens. And we all know that happens. Like all these like, stereotypes and like framed as wisdom or whatever, which like some of like, and once it actually like, because it's one thing to say something like men and women can't be friends. It's another thing to actually like be in a relationship like that and live it, which, I think we all have been friends with someone where we've been trying to figure out like, what is this? Like, can we go here? Should we just stay here? And while like, some of those things remain true, it's like always just like a whole other thing to actually go through the process. And that's what's great to see happen in the later half of this movie, which is really what it's all about for me, because it does feel true by the end, because it is like, it's stuff we don't have simple answers for. Even though it does end well and kind of tidy, it still is like this, always going to be this confusing thing for us to go through, this sort of arc of how we end up with someone.
Do you think you would feel differently about the first half of the movie on a rewatch, knowing where it goes?
Yeah, especially I would be way less panicked, because I was really believing that the whole movie was just going to be them on a road trip, and they were going to, as like college students. And I was like, I hate both these people. This sucks. I don't want to watch a whole hour and 40 minutes of this. Billy Crystal being a jackass. But I was like, oh, thank God, 12 years later. Please God.
What you were describing about like just people making sweeping generalizations about romance that don't resonate is like another thing that I like about the movie. Like it is almost wall to wall, just conversations of people kind of like working out their theory of like how love works. And there's just like a lot of bad relationship advice being batted around, which I think is like really interesting dramatically to kind of see people's viewpoints get challenged and things like that. But I also think it's like very true to life. Like I think that a lot of people kind of walk around with bad ideas of how love and relationships work, and like the way they like test and figure out that stuff is like totally flying by the seat of their pants. So like I think
there's no handbook. And
exactly.
We only know what we're taught. Taught garbage, and then we have to spend on learning it with painful experiences.
There's like
it's compulsive heterosexuality, like they're just like, well, I'm this old, so I must get married and I must have the babies and I must have the house, and I'm not going to think anything of it, and oh wait, I hate this person.
The first scene with Carrie Fisher where they're sitting around the like brunch table, like going through the Rolodex of like maybe single men in New York City, and kind of like just obsessing over the importance of getting married is like really interesting to see, like anthropologically, like how did these belief systems get instilled, right? And later you see a Carrie Fisher and Meg Ryan's characters in a bookstore where she eventually like runs back into Billy Crystal's character, who's like standing in the personal growth section, which is so very funny. But they're in front of this like tableau of like women's relationship books that is like really interesting to look at. Like I can't imagine, I imagine that like most of these books are just filled with kind of like armchair psychologizing. Is that a word?
It now is.
Yeah, it now is. We just made it a word. That are like, from the perspective of people who don't really have it that much figured out than the women themselves in this case. So I don't know. The way that it explores that stuff, I think, is really interesting.
Don't talk to me till you know what your attachment style is.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back, I think my second viewing will be very different, knowing also that it was written by a woman, which really helped, because a lot of my trouble was like sort of, I don't know, feeling like it was from this like male lens for some reason. Maybe because like Billy Crystal does talk a lot of bullshit the whole time. And I'm like, if it was, it's like, so that kind of reinforces Meg Ryan's character in a very special way. I still think like maybe she's in some scenes it feels a little unresolved, and maybe they come down on her a little too hard still. Like scenes where like we're supposed to see her as like being ridiculous for calculating the tip or something properly, or like having preferences, which I was kind of like, it still feels like by the end they're still like, oh, wanting it on the side, what a psycho, you know.
I mean, that is a very true to life thing for like our dynamic specifically. Like I am the guy who's going to order the number 3,
and then they get like a thing wrong, and he's like, "Don't tell anybody. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine."
Jessy is actually worse than Meg Ryan in this movie in that, like, at least she knows what she wants, right? Like she has her long spiel about exactly what she does and does not want on the side. Jessy doesn't know what she wants. So like she has to have a long conversation with the waiter where she asks questions about, you know, several things on the menu until she figures out what the long spiel is.
Well, if it's going to be fixed this way, I'm going to want it. But if it's going to be fixed this other way, then I might want something else.
And it always makes me laugh, and it is charming. I laugh at her, but I also laugh with her. Like I don't see it as like when the movie is mining comedy out of that, like it doesn't feel mean to me. Like it just feels like
I think he loves that about her. I think he genuinely just like thinks it's hilarious but adorable.
It's observing, like
at least by the end,
about a person. Yeah.
I want it the way I want it. Like, I feel no regret, no remorse. Make fun of me all you want. That's who I am.
There you go.
Zach, you've been very quiet, but also this movie. What are your thoughts?
I really like When Harry Met Sally. I think where it succeeds is like, I think Rob Reiner is able to marry Nora Ephron's dialogue with just strong visual comedic directing. It's also very well edited. It's edited in a way that's very funny. You know, like there's the scene near the beginning where they go to the diner and they're having the conversation about the great sex that she had and the argument that she had with her boyfriend who she had great sex with, and they're arguing over the days of the week underpants. And
God!
My favorite part of the movie is the way that she goes, we were arguing over that there's no Sunday, and then Billy Crystal goes, well, why is there no Sunday? And she goes, because of God. And it cuts to his face just staring at her, and then it just cuts to another
That is great. Yeah.
Which the joke itself, like written on the page, isn't funny, but it's funny in a movie way because
it tells you to take a beat, you know.
But it's only funny in the way that it's delivered in the movie because of the
rhythm of it.
The rhythm of the cut, it makes it even funnier because she goes, because of God, and it cuts to him staring, and it just cuts away immediately.
It makes me think about it for a second.
Perfect moment, I think.
And there's a lot of those types of things where I think he frames and edits the movie in a really funny way. I think he like you think about the way he utilizes the scene where Billy Crystal is telling Bruno Kirby about how his wife divorced him, and they're at a Giants game, and they like they're talking about it through the wave, which is such like he just kind of sets it up in these ways that like he's able to create the situation. Again, like the dialogue is great, but like he sets it up in this very funny cinematic way that also the way that he structures it and edits it and cuts it makes it even funnier.
Yeah,
I agree.
Those split screens, I can't get over. I wish there were split screens in every movie. I know.
I love the triple split screen where it's
you see the couple in bed and then you see Harry and Sally on the other side
on the phone with each one of them. Yeah, fantastic.
Oh man, I forgot about that. And Carrie Fisher, oh my God, she's so beautiful.
was I going to say? Oh, well, we were kind of talking last week, I feel like, about like sex in these movies and how maybe we're seeing a trend of movies kind of being stripped of that.
Yeah.
I guess stripped, that's a funny word choice. But this one's interesting in that you don't see any nudity, but like the movie is almost constantly talking about sex.
Yeah. Because it's a part of relationships that
Yeah.
like adults talk about, right?
Right. And that's a certain thing. I mean, I think in some ways it can kind of make things awkward and weird, especially when people like don't have good ways to talk about it or have weird expectations attached to it. And it's funny because like she, especially her beginning, is a person who doesn't seem like she feels like it's proper to talk about sex, especially with this guy that she's just met.
Right.
And I think that's something that's supposed to be kind of funny about her. But then the next time you see her and she's doing the fake orgasm thing, maybe it was later on in the movie.
That's the next ellipses, I think. Yeah.
She is obviously a little bit more bold with talking about it. But anyway,
it's also yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I don't know where I was going with that.
I mean, it's also yet another thing about this movie that is easy to take for granted, because I think this was like a big time period, probably, like from what I can see, for mainstream movies being able to talk about sex in like an adult way. That like maybe we are like arrived at like a place in like the 70s where we could talk about it as like sort of exploitive and like the hippie kind of way, like just the raw actual doing it part, but actually talking about the psychology of sex in a adult relationship was still like extremely novel, and it's easy to take that for granted now as a viewer.
How do y'all see this one compared to some of the other Nora Ephron movies like Sleepless in Seattle or You've Got Mail?
I've never seen Sleepless in Seattle. I feel like I should. I feel like this is way better than You Got Mail, and I do like You Got Mail quite a bit. But it feels like a much more flawed movie. I've heard that Sleepless in Seattle also has like serious like weird like moral stuff to it. Like a thing with You Got Mail is like Tom Hanks's character literally like ruins Meg Ryan's business, and like he gets rewarded with a relationship with her. And Sleepless in Seattle, I think, is like supposed to be kind of stalkerish or something. I don't know. This movie feels like kind of fortunately free of a lot of that stuff.
It's been a long time since I've seen either one of those movies. I've seen both. I think this is just by far the best of the three, but also it's more fresh in my mind. Maybe if I watched those other two, I could have a stronger opinion. I think this one, I don't know. There's just a lot. You spend a lot more time, like, and see development better on the characters in this. And I think romance is just so sweet, so much sweeter. I don't know.
I also like Billy Crystal as a romantic lead way more than Tom Hanks' romantic lead. Gotta say,
he won me over eventually. Once again, he seduced me in the end.
Also, Meg Ryan's hair is better in this movie.
Oh, her hair is fantastic. Her hair is fantastic. Her outfit choices are amazing. Big, like, yeah, I love it. I feel like we've re-weaponized her style, like in, I don't know, today look is what they've all like taken it off of her. Her style is fantastic, except for her camp counselor outfit.
I want her hair. I just wish I had this big old cloud of hair.
Yes.
Amazing.
There was some quote I saw while researching notes that said they gave her glasses because they thought it would, like, just Meg Ryan on her own was they found to be incredibly more attractive than Billy Crystal, so they gave her glasses to make it seem like she would maybe go for him.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not wrong, but
his appeal is in the charisma.
Yeah, that's where his strength is, and that's what makes a person too.
He's got great faces, man. Especially the big moment when they have sex and they like wake up and Billy is just like staring and smiling, but
Yeah.
like clearly screaming inside because he's like, we finally did it. Now what happens? What's gonna happen? It's gonna ruin everything.
No.
He's like catatonic or something. That was definitely like my favorite thing that he did.
I don't know. I feel like the stealth MVP of the movie though is Bruno Kirby, who I love.
He's good
in most movies, but especially this movie.
Who
Like
that?
he's the best friend of Billy
Yeah.
Crystal's character.
Oh,
What's the quote? What's the quote that Carrie Fisher reads on their double date? That was one of the things that I lost my mind at.
It was like something is to something of something, but
Yeah.
I don't know what the specifics were.
It was like some very like perfect encapsulation of like fake deep like New Yorker insight that I thought was very funny.
And then they knew, and that was the moment they knew.
Yeah.
I just like when he's sitting there in the other batting cage going, "You made a woman meow," and then like Billy Crystal continues talking, and he goes, "You made a woman meow."
I also like in that same scene, Billy Crystal's like, I really feel like I'm growing as a person. And then he like ends up turning around and like yelling at some 10-year-old kid to like get away from his batting cage.
That and then Bruno Kirby yelling "baby fish mouth" is also.
Oh my god!
The charade
just
scene
love
is
Bill.
adorable.
I just love Bruno Kirby.
Made me want to have a game night. with my
I've never. I
friend.
don't. What else is he in? What's his story? I don't know him.
I don't know him either.
Well, Seth,
I
there's
love
a wonderful device called IMDb that will help you with that inquiry. But he's also very good in Good Morning Vietnam.
I'm no good with inventions. I don't know how it works.
There was a line in the charade scene that's killing me. They just start. They get to where they're just guessing nonsense, especially Billy Crystal. I don't know what it is that he says, but it's just so.
Somebody's like, "Is that a phrase?" And Billy Crystal's like, "Oh, but baby fish mouth is a phrase."
Well, there they go. Is that even a phrase? And he goes, "Oh, but baby fish mouth is sweeping the nation."
I mean, I feel like we could just like spin a wheel and land it on any scene of this movie, and we would find some little quirk or moment or line like that would make me laugh again just remembering it. Which I think is a testament to the strength of this.
I love it every time. Every time. It's one of those movies I think I could just rewatch over and over. And, it never gets less.
I almost did not rewatch it with you. But I've seen the movie so many times. And I wasn't in this podcast either. But then I sat down and rewatched it with Jess, and it was just as funny as every other time I've seen it. And I was like, I have to be on this podcast because I like this movie so much.
Goat romance.
It's one that kind of is always, if you like, it's like if you Googled like romantic comedy movies, it would be one of those movies that would pop up at the top. I mean, I feel like we've answered this question, but I mean, do you feel like it even today, like it still kind of holds that mantle as like one of the best examples of a romantic comedy?
I think it's the best on the list. I think it's probably the best romantic comedy I can think of. But I think it's definitely the best on the of this series that we're going to be doing. Yeah. And so I think what I think is going to be interesting about the series is we wanted to kind of pick movies that people like people hold up and say like these are some of the GOAT romances, so we didn't, we wanted to pick something that like everybody's heard of and then talk about it from a critical lens. But I think that some of the movies on here have some really fair things to talk about that they kind of suck. Like if you rewatch them, like they might not be very good. I don't know how I'm going to feel with The Notebook. I haven't watched that since forever. So I'm excited to rewatch it and see if it's actually stupid or not. Like, I don't know. It might be, it might not be. But I think that genuinely this is so good.
I'm dreading watching All the Boys I've Loved Before because
it's good.
Because I have time's so little and life's so short.
Did you not see it when it came out?
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, it's a Netflix movie,
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of talking about the arc of the series while we were watching When Harry Met Sally, and I think it is going to be really interesting to kind of see the sea changes from the 80s to the 90s to the 2010s, I guess is when To All the Boys Like We Can't I Love Before out. We truly are living in like the Netflix era of rom-coms.
I feel like you either go see an Avengers or something in theaters, or like a Star Wars or some shit, and that's all that's in theaters. Like there's other stuff like just flops, but like or you watch it on a streaming platform. And I feel like that's just kind of a lot of where we're at. I mean, indie movies are coming out still, but I don't think I definitely don't feel like romance movies are what they were in the early 2000s and the 90s. I feel like everybody was talking about the newest. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I also grew up as a girl. And
well, that was the Nicholas Sparks era.
Yeah.
Right. We went from the Nora Ephron style era to the Nicholas Sparks era.
And now I just feel like that's dead. Like that era is dead. People don't. I mean, there aren't big name romances coming out anymore. So. And I feel like it kind of died somewhere around The Notebook, I guess.
It feels like they're all very serious, like the romances that I can think of that are big that have come out.
Right.
Like even like on the TV front, like I think more recently, like a big pop culture romance is probably like Euphoria that people are really into.
Is there a romance?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've seen that.
Torture or?
I was under the impression it was just like teens behaving badly.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I don't know. I know it's like Rue and Jules, and they're like the center of all the drama or something.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I had a little thing where I watched a bunch of them, and I don't know how I feel about it necessarily. But that was like that was like one of the few things I was like, this is a modern romance thing, and we don't see a lot of modern romances, and they're always like very like intense and dark, and they're not like when was the last time I saw like a funny romantic movie? I guess because they just like we got so acclimated to them being like factory made, and there were so many bad ones.
When it's really well done,
it's not allowed to be done or something.
Yeah, when it's really well done, I think like romantic comedy may be my favorite, my favorite genre, but I just feel like it's not as easy as I don't know. And also lately I just don't feel like as much comes out.
Yeah. And to your point, Seth, about like modern romances being extremely dark, and maybe also more prevalent on TV than in movies. I'm sure Jessy would point to Outlander as like an iconic modern romance, but it's very dark. Like a lot of big sad emotions in that, a lot of like really gruesome violence in that.
I love a good romance. I don't know. I feel like is that just like me just being a lame girl or what it is? But
I'm gonna just reaffirm. I guess we're just gonna make this a weekly thing. That I'm gonna reaffirm that there's still rom-coms coming out, but they're on television now. So because When Harry Met Sally influenced Friends, which influenced How I Met Your Mother, which influenced a number of other sitcoms. But then you shifted into more kind of serious rom-com-y things. I mean, you still got stuff. You got good ones now. You have things like High Fidelity on Hulu's really good. Normal People is a good romance.
I love Normal People. It's so good.
Love Life on HBO Max is really good. No, there's good stuff.
That's right. The show Love. I forgot about the show Love. That's
show Love on Netflix. I mean, there's good stuff. It's just it's more they
I wonder why that is.
Because they can mine it in a more serialized form easier.
Right. You can stretch the will they won't they out for multiple seasons.
Maybe it's not a terrible
thing. You can
thing.
see the ups and downs of the relationship and just kind of keep people.
And I might like television more than movies, but I don't know. That's kind of like a treasonous thing to say on the movie podcast.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's probably exceptions to the rule, but in general, one thing that the serialized format like doesn't have on movies is like that visual intentionality that we often talk about with the stories that we're discussing on this podcast. So that's kind of a bummer for like if TV is where this genre lives now. It sucks that there's not as much of it being told in an interesting way visually.
Yeah, sometimes it lacks the style that movies do, but sometimes it doesn't. It just kind of depends on who gets involved in the project, I guess.
Any final thoughts on When Harry Met Sally before we wrap up?
Great movie. People should watch it if they
Yeah.
haven't.
Seth is
That's
a
all.
soft yes.
I came
Java
around.
Swaffer, a strong yes.
Yeah.
We stand.
If you're looking for, if you've not seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, it's streaming right now on HBO Max. But it's also pretty available. You can probably find it in most places. So it's an hour and a half. I mean, it's a good watch.
It's very sweet. And
Flies
fuzzy.
by.
And
Single, ready to mingle.
silly.
All right. Well, that will wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cinematary, on Twitter and Instagram at handle @Cinematary, and on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/Cinematary, where we post all the movies that we talked about in this episode. We mentioned at the top, if you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Cinematary. Thank you to our patrons, Cam, Chad Newsom, Corey Willingham, Harry Eskin, Candace Sisson, Ron Hayes, Titus Arthur, Tyler Chandler, and Whitney Rio Ross. Thank you so much for your patronage. Next week, we're going to be continuing the romance movie series with 1993's Poetic Justice.
Yo.
So
excited to see it. Never seen it.
Yeah, definitely. Until then.
Bye-bye.
Stay cool.
Stay
Stay
cool.
in love.
And
Stay in love.
Yeah. Have a good one, and fuck Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.